Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to carry on with the governor. What I've decided to do, this leg here, I'm going to try and cast that with a ring on the top so it will slip on there, and then I'll soft solder the ring there. So in CAD I've done a 3D model of that. Also that part there I'm going to cast. The drawing measurement on here is slightly wrong, so I've actually measured from the center of the shaft that would run through there, which would be from there to the end, is 7/16, not 7/16 overall as they've got it. I'll show you on the CAD. Right, this is the part, the slot in it. I've made this plenty long enough so I can hold that in the chuck, face this end down, and then I've got a drill for the shaft that runs through it all the way through. Then I'll be able to part it off. So from the bottom there to the top of that there is 7/16 of an inch. So that's that part. And then I'll just show you the leg. So this is the leg. That's a full I haven't put a hole through there because I'm going to print this off, print the parts off and cast them and then machine them to fit. I have allowed a little bit more for machining off the foot to make a good fit when the other part is bolted onto the cylinder head. So let's go out in the workshop and we'll print those two bits off. Right, I've just started printing those little bits off. You won't be able to see much for a while, so when it's done I'll get back to you. Right, the printing's finished. I have to get them off and I put them in a bucket of water because the resin I've used is water washable. That's the printed bits, still on the supports. That's the support leg. That's the little fork. That's something else. That's for a stopcock. Right, I'll just get them off the supports and I'll put them out in the sun a little bit to cure a bit harder before we use them for a pattern to cast them. Right, so when the governor's bolted on there, that is the leg which I've printed. I'm going to cast that and that'll fit. When that's drilled through, that'll fit on the end there. And then bolt down to the cylinder head there. And then this piece, that'll be going on the shaft that goes across there. So when you've got the shaft running up through there, that'll be machined to fit in there, look. Lovely. So now I can try and cast those parts. Right, I'm going to cast this little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this frame up with sand, turn it over and push this in to the top of the sand. Being such a small piece, it wasn't worth making it into two halves, so you put one half down. So that's what I'm going to do. So just fill this one up with sand. Right, I've got some Petra Bond sand here. Just tamp it down nice and hard. Top off. Right, I'll just clean the board up. Right, next thing I'm going to place this part on the top and push that down into the sand. Like so. Lovely. Push that down a little bit more. Right, let's stop the top half sticking to that now. I'll just give that a dust with some powder. Plenty of powder. You don't want the top half sticking, do you? I'll give that a brush in. Right. Now I'm going to fill that up with sand. Right, I'll just clean the board off. Right, we should be able to pull that apart now. Beautiful. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is take this out. Beautiful. And what I got to do on both of these now is just create a little channel from the end, because the metal's going to be going in there, and then hopefully it will fill that in. That's one. Got to do the same on this half. Beautiful. Right, so we got the track for the feed in both sides, so they can go together now. That one on there. Right, what I do now, I've got a couple of bits of plywood there, one on each side. Then I'll clamp that together so that'll stay nice and upright. Push that over there, that's it. Right, so that'll stand upright when I pour the metal in. Now what I got to do is get the crucible out and melt some metal. Right, I just got the little crucible up and running. It's loaded with some metal. Just waiting for that to get up to temperature. Right, we're just about ready to pour that now. I've scooped the dross off. Right, so the brass is solidified, so let's have a look. Bit dark in here, I'll turn the light on. Just turn the camera around this way a bit. There we are. I can file that up, machine the bottom flat, mark and drill the hole. So what I'm going to do now is the other little bit. So when I've done that, I'll get back to you. Right, so there's that casting for the leg. So if I've got the measurement right, I should be able to drill through there, take this shaft off, slide that in and solder that on the end there. Right, and while that was, I've filed that up, but I have cast this. That's the stopcock, and this is the part which will be going in there. What I'll do now is I'll just cut the sprue off and that, and file that up, and then I'll show you. Right, that's the 3 little parts I've cast. That's for a stopcock. I'm happy with that. I can work with that. Now this is the 2 parts for the governor. That'll fit on that shaft just there. This part here, when you've got that shaft going up which goes into the piston there, that'll be machined to go in there, look. Lovely. So I'm happy how they gone. I can now machine these up. Carry on with that. Right, so I'm going to set that up in the milling machine now. Machine that bottom flat first. Right, I've got this clamped on as good as I can. This is the sort of time you need something like a small pallet. But I've taken my time and got all that square. I'm just going to skim the bottom of the foot here, just to make it flat. Beautiful. Now what I'll have to do is reset that up so I can get that edge and then measure to the center of this hole ready for drilling. Right, I'm just going to drill some 68 clearance holes in the base. Just swap the drills. Right, that's that one done. Right, that's that little leg done. Now the next thing I'm going to do, put that part in the lathe, clean up the end, bore through for the shaft, which goes through, that's the shaft there, and then I'll be able to then part that off to the right length, so the shaft that goes up through there will be central there. Right, I'm just going to part face off this end a little bit carefully. Lovely. Right, put a centre drill in there and then bore through. Right, I'm just drilling through. Right, that's deep enough now. Now I can set to and part that off to the right distance from the centre of that slot. Right, there we are. Just put that on a little shaft in the governor. Right, so there's this little lever that'd be on the shaft there. On the shaft there we've got to have a little gear here and a spring in between. Then of course there'd be the shaft which goes from the little piston up through into there. So we're getting there. So the next thing then I should do is make the shaft going through with the piston, and then this little shaft here. Then we got to find a gear, and I think they say use a bit of stud, and look, there's the little gear there. And then through there, that little bit of stud there, and the gear. They go through that hole there, so the gear would be there, look, and then that's our little fork we just made in there. So it's the shafts next. Right, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to just take that off, make the shaft that runs up through the middle, that has the piston on the bottom. So I'll take that out of there. But if we look at the drawing, we have a disc on the bottom, that one's 3/16 diameter, and one on the top which is a 1/4 inch diameter. The bottom one there, what I'm going to do is drill and tap the disc, and then silver solder it on the bottom of the shaft, and then I'm going to cut those slots in it. And on the top one I'm going to thread the top, make a 1/4 inch diameter disc, screw that on. Once we've got that adjusted later on, we can do a little bit of soft solder on the drawing there, it says later on, once it's all set up. Right, so let's make my discs first. Right, just put the next tap in. Right. Now I'll just part that little disc off. Right, now I'll just make the 1/4 inch diameter disc. Right, that's the 2 little discs done. Now what I'm going to do is put a little bit of thread on one end of this. That'll be the bottom end. And the longer thread on the top end. So when we fit this and get the final measurement, I can then trim that off to length. Right, so let's get some thread on there. Right, so I've made the shaft. Got to silver solder that bottom disc on. So just do that now. I'll just set the gas bottle up. Right, that's that silver soldered. Now what I can do when that's cooled down, do those little notches there. Right, I put 3 little notches in there as the drawing. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to solder that leg on there. Do that now. Right, there we are. Let that cool down. Right, so what we do is we put everything together we can now for the minute. This is the piston. Right, so that's got to slide over there. And the piston goes on the bottom. Screws in there. And according to the drawing, there should be a little bit of play in there, which it is. And I can feed that up through there. So the piston will be under there and fitting in to there. Now we got this disc here. It's all fiddly stuff, isn't it? It's got a screw on the top there. Let's take that off there a minute. That's going to be fiddly to put together in it later on. See if I can use the point of the screwdriver. Screw that down a little bit. There we are. I won't screw that all on. I want to take it apart later on, and then of course that cap will screw into there later on. Good. There we are, we're getting there. I made this little shaft here for the fork. What I've got to sort out now is a gear to go in there and the bit going in through there and a spring. Right, that's all the time I've got at the minute. Haven't done too bad. I mean, I've got to alter the arm for the safety valve, and then we can mount everything on the top. There's the whistle there. As I say, I've got to sort out a gear for here and that's literally finished. Oh, there's a little thing that's got to go on the shaft in there above the fork. So when that gets pushed down, it pushes that down, pushes the piston down. I've got to alter the arm there so that way then, look, if I take that out there, that fits lovely, look. But that's not any hardship. Right. Please subscribe to my channel and join me as I build a 2-inch scale Fowler Showmans traction engine.